before you criticize a veteran, present your case as to why you're an authority. What have you done for society? So, as many of you know, I'm a Marine. And as many of you know, most of my viewpoints tend to lean on what most people would consider conservative. Am I conservative? I don't know. I consider myself a free thinker. I'm not aligned with any party. I don't agree with either sides. But values-wise, family values, traditional, that sort of thing, yes, I do tend to lean on what most people would consider conservative. I had a couple comments where I was called a bootlicker because I'd made the statement that I am not really for income taxes. I think income taxes are absurd. The idea that I owe you money because I went to work just doesn't compute with me. Now, does that mean I'm anti-taxes? Generally speaking, I lean towards the we should probably not steal money from people side of the fence. But I also understand in a free society where we have all the accoutrements of Western civilization, you probably need somebody to make roads and, pay for schools, that kind of thing. Although I think that should be states' rights and not, federal government, but that's a different topic altogether. I'm against the Department of Education. Sue me. Guy calls me a bootlicker. Says, how can you be against taxes when you enjoy all those wonderful benefits, like being in the military somehow makes you a ward of the state, or like on welfare, that kind of thing? Well, being a Marine makes you an employee of the government, and now what does an employee of a government entail? It means I signed a contract. Now, in the case of the Marine Corps, that contract was up to and including, if necessary, my life. Now, do most people in the service put their lives on the line? Statistically speaking, no. But that's always there, and you agreed. And so if it comes down to it and you're in a situation where it calls for it, you sign a contract. Benefits are what the government agreed to give you in return for offering your life to them. You belong to them for however many years you agreed to serve. You pledge that, and they pledge whatever they're going to give you in return. If that's college tuition, GI Bill, or if it's disability, if you're injured, all of that is in that contract you signed. So as far as I'm concerned, that's fair trade. You agreed to give me this. I agreed to give you that. I fulfilled my side of the contract. You owe me what we agreed upon. Nothing more, nothing less. Is that welfare? I don't think so. Social Security, I've heard that leveraged. Old people that are collecting Social Security are also on the welfare of the state. Except you have to work and put money that they take from you involuntarily, and that goes into Social Security, and you maybe if you're lucky, you see a fraction of that return to you, and they barely give it to you in increments that are enough to provide basic care, the living needs. You're certainly not going to, live a lavish lifestyle on what Social Security will provide for you. All it is a little tiny cushion that most people can barely sustain themselves on. So, is that welfare? I don't know. Am I against welfare? Well, on paper, yes. On paper, I would be totally against welfare. I'm totally against the, state taking from somebody that produces and giving to somebody that doesn't produce in the, equity or whatever. To me, that's just, you're supposed to earn. You go to work and you work for what you earn. You produce something. Nobody owes you anything. You're not owed a living simply because you exist. You have to put in what you get out of it. And that's just me. I believe in personal responsibility, and I believe in working for what we have. But over the years, I've both met people and been in situations where I did need help, and I went after that help, and help was provided short term. And I got to thinking, it sort of did soften my stance on a safety net, and I do believe that we're also supposed to care for those that can't care for themselves. Ideally, in a society that didn't have the state repurposing from those who produce and giving to those who don't, we would be obligated to care for those people. And I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that in the absence of government oversight, charity, that sort of thing, generally speaking, historically speaking, people have taken care of their own. But then there are those who are they fall through the cracks, and for whatever reason they can't fend for themselves. I kind of see the need for, what are you going to do? Put her out on the street and let her starve to death? Like, that doesn't sit right with me either. So to me, that's a complex issue. I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-statist. I'm anti-collectivist. I'm anti-authoritarian. But I see in a society, especially as large and diverse as ours, there's absolutely a need for the rule of law. There's just no way around it. There's no way we could exist as a society without the rule of law. And we saw that over this last couple of years with the defunding of the police and how the violent crime rates rose exponentially. And people can now shoplift with impunity, and people sacking stores to the point where they're going out of business because they can't turn a profit because they're stealing so much. And people do so with impunity. We see clerks getting reprimanded and fired for trying to protect the assets of their stores. We see all the time in the news where people are siding with the criminals, and they're literally victimizing the victims. They're firing employees that stand up for themselves. They're firing employees that look out for other people, and they're basically letting the criminals go free. I don't know. The state of the world. The point I'm trying to make is that we gotta have laws. We have to, and we have to have people to enforce those laws. I've never been anti-police. There was never a moment in my life where I said we gotta get rid of all the cops. But I've been pretty vocal in that I don't like the fact that most police outfits seem to only be focused on revenue raising for the state, meaning they'll pull you over, write your ticket, and they're gonna get your money. It's just their focus is citing people. Traffic police are all over the place. And you're gonna get your ticket, and you're gonna have to pay, and that's how the state's gonna make up for its taxes. But if your house is being robbed, you're gonna be long dead before they ever show up. Good Lord, man! I would say a handful of times over the years here in Vegas, I've called the police for domestic issues. Either there was something going on inside of the house, or people were doing stuff that required, in my opinion, police intervention, and they never showed up. Never. But during school, there's a cop out there, and he'll write you a ticket if you're speeding in that school zone. Holy crap, he will. He's there right on Johnny on the spot. Do 17 miles an hour in that 15 mile an hour zone. Yes, sir. Don't call him if someone's breaking in and trying to murder your wife. But he's there in a jiffy if you're going a little too fast to your driveway. That's the kind of stuff I'm against. I think that's a horrible... Protect and serve doesn't exist anymore. They're protecting and serving the state. That's what they're doing. So, am I anti-government? No. Does being in the Marines make me a bootlicker? How can you say you want to change all this stuff about government? You're against all these things, but you're proud to be part of a military organization, and they're the mercenaries for countries that don't have their own armies, and they're policing the world, and there's a lot of complex issues in that. I love my brothers, and I'm proud of it. This EGA that I fucking earned, boys. Proud of it. And that'll never change. That will never change. I will say this. You can get into the whole globalist, nationalist thing, but this world that we exist in, as we exist in it, can only exist. All that stuff you can get from China, the next day from Amazon, all those smartphones that you're carrying around watching this video on, all the little gadgets in the vehicles that you drive, everything, all this entire globalist economy only exists because of our military and our will to enforce shipping lanes. And a lot of it, a lot of it is that we're not transparent and we don't state the reasons why we're intervening. But I'm here to tell you right now, the second America pulls off the global stage and stops policing the world, globalism falls apart and you lose access to everything. So all you revolutionaries out there that are typing up shitty comments on iPhones and Samsung Galaxies, kiss that goodbye. Kiss all that goodbye. You'll actually have to earn in order to survive. You will have to physically go do something. You'll have to produce something of value to society in order to survive. There will be no more free lunch. And then you'll see what it's really like. You know, what would happen is we'd probably look a lot like what Russia went through after the Soviet Union collapsed. There would be a time period where we would adjust, but we would have to live off of what we produce and export and import and trade with other countries, and more than likely Mexico's gearing up to become China's replacement anyways, and that looks like 5 years. Like if you're paying attention to what's going on south of the border, they're already investing in that labor force, and it's a much more skilled labor force. And I think that Mexico's shaping up to become the next China on the world stage. Believe it or not, and that might sound hooey and all that, but look into it. Start researching. You'll see. You can say what you want about the military, but the fact is, I think the problem is that our government's not honest with the people. They lie. They don't tell you why we're really doing things. And then when you really get to the bottom of it, and you find out that we're just protecting our assets, everything we do is to protect American interests, then it kind of becomes, it's sort of a dirty thing. It's icky. But again, man, the second we stop, it all goes away. It all goes away. So just something to consider, before you start railing on people that served in the military. And the idea that we're welfare, a burden on the state. Read one of those contracts. My challenge to you, before you criticize a veteran, present your case as to why you're an authority. What have you done for society? Who have you served? What have you ever put on the line? Whether it was idealistic, right or wrong, the fact that these men and women put their lives on the line, whether or not that'll ever come into play, whether or not they'll ever face that danger, the fact is that they're willing and able. They're very capable people. And you can criticize them all you want, but before you do, I want to see your credentials. You tell us, give us a reason why you are the authority on how the world should run before you criticize the service of someone else. And you know what? Maybe you got the chops, baby. I'm willing to bet most of you don't.